It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Load the magazine to the handgun. Pull back in that slide, let it go. Nice, good two-handed grip. This will be a one-shot exercise, but my command, one shot only. Day, Austin, Texas, live music capital of the world. Let's praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. All right, so, man, I got a special guest for you guys today, you guys and girls. We're going to bring in a firearms instructor from Atlanta, Georgia. She's also a radio show host herself. She's a black female firearms instructor. Going to talk about some universal background checks. You guys know how that's going to affect you? Well, you know what? We're in trouble, because the Universal Background Check bill has passed the U.S. Congress. So I want to talk about that. Also, inside the studio, we have Patrick. Told you guys about Patrick last week. Patrick came to Central Texas Gun Works, and I walked in the door there and said, hey, I'm newly left-handed, and I need to learn how to shoot. I lost my right arm and my right leg in a motorcycle accident. So we have Patrick in the studio. Also, in the studio, we got my favorite from the royal family.
Distant relation.
Distant relationship to the royal family?
Maybe.
All right, we have someone else in the studio who was here last week. Tell them about you.
Well, I've been welcomed back. I've been invited back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name's Anthony Bird. Anthony C. Bird.
Anthony. That's right, Anthony. And Anthony, I surround myself with people that are on the spectrum. That's what I always say. Everyone in my inner circle is definitely on the spectrum. Because I'm like, hey, Anthony, all right, so we're going to go to the radio show today. He's like, okay. I said, all right, Anthony, I'm going to pick you up from your place, and then we'll ride from there. I said, okay. And then he calls me up. He's like, I'll meet you there. Okay, I'll meet you at the restaurant. I said, okay. So he gets to the restaurant. I said, okay, Anthony, you're gonna ride with me, from the restaurant to the radio station, and we're all ride together. He's like, okay. And then we're getting ready to leave the restaurant. It's like, hey, no. I'll take my own vehicle. What's up with that, Anthony?
Because everywhere I travel in my truck, I carry two AR-15s with me, and I didn't want to leave my truck filled with AR-15s and all my ammunition in a restaurant.
So they're like your kids.
More than kids. I think.
And the one thing about Anthony, when you how long you been here in Austin?
I've been in Austin now, coming up for 2 years exactly.
2 years, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 years, and you landed. I guess the first spot you hit was New York, correct? When
correct,
you flew in from the UK.
Yeah, correct.
All right, so you flew in from the UK and you landed in New York. What was the first thing you did?
I dropped my bags at the hotel, and then I went straight down to 20th Street and went and shot a gun. That was the first thing I did.
So the first thing you did is went to the gun range.
Damn right.
Right after
because
getting
I'm
off
a real
plane.
American.
Oh my goodness! And so I tell you, I surround myself with people that are definitely on the spectrum. So the very first thing he did was shoot a gun, and now it's like his ARs are his children. He don't want to be without them.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I mean, you couldn't have hit it more on the head, to be honest with you. I mean, you're trying to make it out like I'm going to deny this or something. No, you've misinterpreted it. Like, this is exactly the situation.
Right, and then in walks Patrick. Patrick walks in, and he's like, yay, hey, I'm newly, left-handed, and I need to learn how to shoot, with my left hand again. I can't even write my name with my left hand, and so, Anthony, Patrick, tell them about you. So, Patrick, where you from, first of all?
I'm from Kingsville, Texas.
Kingsville, and by the way, Anthony, do not use profanity.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's Patrick.
Patrick.
I mean Patrick. Patrick, don't use profanity.
I'm from South
Thank you,
Texas,
Zach.
about I want to say 40 minutes south of Corpus Christi. So
And get real
pretty-
close to the
pretty
mic,
close to
like
Me-
you make love to the mic.
pretty close to Mexico. But yeah, from South Texas.
All right. And so what made you? And it looked like we're having video problems. I can't tell or not. Is it? Anybody look at the Facebook video? It is up? It's just
It's up.
Is it? Because I'm not seeing it for some reason. All right. So and tell us, something happened to you exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, just a year and a few days ago.
A year and a few days ago.
I was in a motorcycle accident on Breaker and I-35 in Austin. I was exiting them.
And honestly,
exiting-
the first time you told me that story, you told me that you had a motorcycle accident on a Breaker and I-35, right there,
Yeah.
breaking. I was thinking, I was like, man, when was that again? And God, I hope that wasn't me driving by there. That's the first thing that, that came to my mind. 'Cause that's like right by my house. Yeah. It's like, man, I sure hope that wasn't me pulling out of the house there, and hit this guy on the motorcycle or something.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
didn't realize it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
no, it wasn't you. I had ended up pulling out on the access road. I was in the middle lane, and a guy had pulled out in front of me, and he just didn't see me. I'd like to say that he just didn't see me, and he pulled out in front of me with a truck and trailer. He was driving a Dodge Ram 1500 with a flatbed truck and trailer, and he had a flatbed trailer behind him, and I ended up hitting him right where the hitch was attached to the truck, like where the hitch was mounted to the truck. And I wrapped myself around the bed of the truck and everything. I ended up breaking my femur, and I ended up losing my right arm and right leg. I self-amputated my right leg and right arm in the accident. I broke my femur about 6 inches above my knee, and they had to amputate that about 14 days later after the accident. But I had what was called compartment syndrome, which means that basically my calf was taking all the blood and swelling over and over and over, like heating huge, but wouldn't return the blood back to my body or to my kidneys. So they were like, ultimately we have to like cut the artery or we have to cut the leg. So it was the best decision for me to not have like to drag a dead limb, was to end up actually just amputating the right leg completely. So now I have a prosthetic leg and a cool prosthetic arm, and yeah. So
Now,
I'm-
did they say, hey, Patrick, do you want to keep your arm? Did he give you an option or anything like that at all?
Yes, they did. I was not actually like functional like from my accident. I was in a coma for a month and a half.
So you're in a coma for a
And-
month and a half.
Yeah, and so during the coma, my mom and my girlfriend were at the time were asked the question of like, hey, should we keep the limb or should we get rid of the limb? And they thought that getting rid of the limb was be the best option. Even she called a bunch of different doctors. My girlfriend called a bunch of different doctors and like asked opinions and different things like all across the country. And ultimately, it was the best decision was to take my leg, and to amputate the leg. So now I can actually walk in. I have a prosthetic from Ottobock, which is pretty amazing. It's been pretty beneficial to me.
All right, so we're talking about universal background checks today. We're going to talk about two major anti-gun bills that were passed this week by Democrats in the House of Representatives. And we also have Tangi Daniel. She's going to be on the show today. She's a female instructor out of Atlanta, Georgia. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back. We're talking about universal background checks. So for those of you that do not know, and by the way, call in, with any questions that you have about this anti-gun bill, because that's what it is, an anti-gun bill. And I'm going to break this down for you. Our call-in number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. And to keep in mind, whenever we have any gun bills that start any type of restrictions at all, it usually targets certain groups of people. So that's how all the gun legislation is all about. It's all about targeting certain groups of people. So when you look at universal background checks, right now, the way the law is, if you want to buy a gun from a private individual, you can do that. There's no need to walk into a gun store and do a federal background check. Let's say you want to give a gun to your son or your mother or your father or your daughter or your aunt, your uncle, grandma, grandpa. You can give a gun to those individuals as a gift without having to do a background check on them. And let's say you were convicted of a felony about 40 years ago, maybe for a certain amount of marijuana, and now you've lost your gun rights. You're convicted of a felony. So you cannot walk into a gun store as a convicted felon and purchase a firearm from a gun store, federal firearms licensed dealer. The only way you can get a gun is by way of a private sale or as a gift. Now, in Texas, at the 5 years, a convicted felon can have a firearm at home for personal protection at the 5 years after they're off for paper. But they cannot get it from a gun store, cannot walk in and pass the background check, but they can do it as a private sale as a gift. Now, let's say I'm 18 years old, I'm 18, and I can have a handgun in my vehicle at 18 years old. As long as the handgun's concealed at 18, in Texas, you can have a handgun in your vehicle. But at 18, you cannot purchase that handgun from a gun store. You have to wait until you turn 21 because you have to be 21 to pass the federal background check. Well, you can, in Texas, get it as a private sale or as a gift. And that way you don't need to get a background check because you can't pass one anyway because you're not 21 years of age. And so that's how it works right now. If universal background check passes, if that passes, then that means that that person who's 18 will not be able to obtain that firearm at all, because that transaction will have to be done in a gun store. So because you have to be 21 in order to get that done, so that eliminates that. Also, that person who's trying to give a gun as a gift to a family member, or sell their gun to a family member or anyone else, they won't be able to do that because you'll have to walk into a gun store and get the background check. That means that, that convicted felon who has been an outstanding citizen for 40 years and they're trying to get their rights back will never, ever get their rights back. They'll never be able to have a firearm at home for personal protection. So what's the purpose of, if you're going to give a person, you're going to release them from jail and say you're giving them their rights back, why not give them their rights back and let them purchase a firearm for personal protection at home? But you know what? If you pass universal background checks, then that goes away. You're going to have to walk into a gun store. That means that person will not be able to get a firearm.
Yeah, that goes away. What I think people really don't realize is that, there's a certain percentage of the population that is a convicted felon, and that's not a whole lot of people. But what is a huge percentage of the population is marijuana users.
That's right.
Even in legal states like Colorado, Washington, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. If universal background checks passes, then anyone, according to Form 4473, which is the ATF form that you have to fill out when you purchase a gun, and if universal background checks passes, everyone, private sales, gifts, gun store purchases, everyone who buys a gun or transfers it has to fill this form out. And one of the questions on there is, are you an unlawful user of, are you a user of or addicted to any unlawful substances? And they even put in
bold letters.
They put in bold letters.
Warning.
Hey, warning. Hey, it can be legal in your state, but it doesn't matter. If it's federally illegal, like marijuana, which is federally illegal, but legal in certain states, it doesn't matter. If you use marijuana, boom, you cannot purchase a gun. And if you use it and you try to go to a gun store and buy one, you will have to lie on a federal form,
which is a felony.
That's no joke. People have been arrested for lying on the form about marijuana usage.
That's right. And you're signing, that's the purpose of you signing that form. You're saying that, hey, I certify that my answers in this section are true, correct, and complete. I've read and understand the notices, constructions, and definitions of ATF Form 4473. And you're saying that, hey, and by the way, if anything that you put on this form, you put something that's false or misrepresented, then you can be charged with a crime. And
that's a federal offense.
Violation of federal law. Go ahead, Patrick.
Don't
curse.
I'm not going to curse, but I will say that I use.
Close, real close.
I will say that I am actually I'm a user. I do. And there's nothing that anybody can do or say to restrict me from using, and it's illegal in certain states and not certain states. Whether I tell you or not that it's illegal now, and you being 30 minutes from now being like, hey, do you use, I'm going to tell you no in 30 minutes because that's none of your business. But right now when it per se is it's going to understand, I go through extreme amount of pain and an extreme amount of discomfort, but I have to use those kinds of things to make my body feel better and make my body feel where it's okay. So no matter what anybody says or does, I'm going to keep using what I use, and it doesn't matter if you try to drug test me now or drug test me later or anything like that. No matter what you say or do, I'm still going to use, and it's a plant.
And tell us more about the pain. What type of pain are you talking about?
It's a plant.
What pain? Your pain.
My pain is phantom pain. So I feel like my arm is being ripped off. I feel like my arm is being ripped off completely, being ripped off. My brain basically feels like every aspect of the accident is still happening. The arm is being ripped off from my body, is being ripped from my body, and it's not normal. And my body thinks this immediately, that it's not okay, and hey, there's something wrong going on with your body. Hey, just there's something not going well with your body. Something's being taken away right now, and that's not normal. What do we do? And what I have to do is, I don't want to be on opiates or hardcore painkillers or anything like that, but I think I will use I'd rather use like things that are legal in other states, and not just because it's not legal here doesn't mean that it's not okay.
All right, hold that
but it
thought.
doesn't.
And hold that thought, Patrick.
Okay.
And by the way, I call in numbers 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. Call in and give me your thoughts on this universal background checks. If you're for universal background checks, I actually want to hear from you. I want to hear why you for universal background checks. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Skip Davis. What up, Skip? My local attorney in Austin, Texas.
Hey, fellas. Good to see you today.
What's going on?
You too.
This is a wacky situation we find ourselves in. Something that we shouldn't probably be considering right now, given the January 6th insurrection and riot at the Capitol. Everybody needs to be armed in order to keep law and order in place.
Okay.
Here's what I've got to say about to promote law and order. Here's what I got to say about the marijuana use, and I'm sorry for my friend, your guest who had such a horrific accident. That's an unthinkable situation that you're in, and I wish you the best of health. The law, however, unfortunately, characterizes two reasons why you can't have a gun. One is if you're a mental patient and you've been designated to be, suffering from certain conditions, red flag, we know all about that. And the other is if you're a chronic drug user. And these are those were the conditions under which gun owners and Second Amendment advocates, we had to give away those conditions, those human conditions, being somebody who's psychologically touched and somebody who's a chronic drug user, even if it's a prescription drug.
Skip. Let me stop you right there. The form does not say anything about chronic use. It says, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to? So nothing about chronic use, just the use.
That's what the form says. What the law reads is different. If you'll go to the statute, there's an explanation for why the question is even on the form. The reason the question's on the form is because drug use, the way that we define it nowadays, leads to impairment and can lead to impairment, and impairment sets the person up for poor judgment and certainly can affect normal motor skills.
Are you saying
and those two things are really implicated when you're carrying a weapon. So that's why, if anybody want to know why does that matter, it's not to deprive someone like your guest of the right to defend himself. It just means he can't buy one, through the federal marketplace and the background check. You're always going to be able to get a black market gun. There's too many of them on the street.
That's illegal.
And there's what's illegal about owning a gun?
A black market gun?
All right. Hold on, Skip. We're going to come back to that. We're talking about universal background checks, talking about the pros. We're talking about the cons. Also have a guest from Atlanta, Georgia, a firearm instructor. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking about universal background checks. We're looking at the 4473. We're talking about, some of the things that you got to watch out for if universal background check passes, and you will not be able to get your hands purchase a firearm, unless you already have your light scary handgun. You won't be able to purchase that firearm, but you got to be able to answer the questions truthfully. You're not even going to get past that point if you don't answer the questions truthfully. And one of the questions on the 4473 says, are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance? Warning, the use or possession of marijuana remains unlawful under federal law, regardless of whether it has been legalized or decriminalized for medicinal or recreational purposes in the state where you reside. If universal background checks passes, you will not be able to get a firearm. Skip.
I still think that it's unenforceable because we'll see, I think transactions will happen in the black market, if you will.
So we're going to give the police power, if universal background check passes, you're going to arm law enforcement. You're going to give them the power to be able to pull people over, and they got to figure out, did you possess this firearm legally? How did you get your hands on this gun? Now we're going to put people that you advocate, you're trying to protect. We're going to get those people that we're trying to protect more attention from law enforcement and give law enforcement more tools to harass those people.
I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that law enforcement will automatically, as a result of the passage of this bill, have a good faith basis to ask how somebody acquired a gun. I think the government has to prove that the gun was acquired outside of the registration purpose, but that's going to be hard for them to prove. I don't think they're going to be able. Now, I
got to get past the traffic stop first, Skip. Got to get past that traffic stop. If I may die doing the traffic stop.
Well, that's in fact true, but that's just the way.
You will not be able to get a. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Sorry?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, what I'm saying is that, listen, I don't know how I think it's unenforceable. I don't know how they stop private sales. Private sales are always going to go on. Nobody's going to walk into a gun store and say, "Hey, I want to sell this guy this gun."
Okay.
When you can just transfer the gun with such little effort.
So, are you for universal background checks? This law passing?
No, not at all. The reason why I'm against this universal background checks passing is because I fear that the government is keeping a list of who buys guns and where the guns are. Whether they tell you they do or not, just like with firearms, we have the Austin.
Oh, we're losing you there for a second. Once you get your signal back there, but you know what? You're right. They are keeping records of your firearms transaction. Here's what they're doing in Texas. If you buy 2 handguns or more, or 2 long guns or more in a 5-day period, that gun store has to fill out a form and fax it in to the FBI, the NICS that day, and also to the chief law enforcement officer in the county that you live in. On that form that they're faxing in that day, they're telling them everything about you. They're telling them your sheriff. They're telling them the make, model, serial number of your guns. That if you buy 2 handguns or more in a 5-day period, 2 long guns or more in a 5-day period, and they say because we border Mexico. So yeah, you are right, Skip.
So I'm almost guaranteed to be on that list.
If you buy 2 handguns in more than a 5-day period, and 2 long guns in more than a 5-day period, yeah, you're on that list.
I did that as soon as I had state ID. That's the first thing I did.
And you did it in Texas?
Yep.
Then they know they need to make model.
Well, Chief Manley, you know where I'm at. You know what I got.
So what do you think about that, Skip? So you're right.
Well, again, I'm a fierce Second Amendment advocate, and my opinion is put guns in everybody's hands, and we'll stop a lot of the nonsense that carries on out here in the public that we see day to day, whether it's police officers being bullies or whether it's bullies being thugs.
Yeah.
If everybody would just step back because everybody's armed, there would be a lot less of this nonsense that we see and complain about.
Well, what frustrates me is the people that say that we need to protect the Breonna Taylors, we need to protect the say his name or say her name. We need to protect those individuals. These are the same people that want to pass universal background checks. And every time you pass a gun law, it actually affects the people that are in the black and brown community. If that's the community that you're trying to protect, then you're not trying to protect that community by passing these gun laws.
For some reason, black people and brown people are of the opinion that firearms are bad. And that's what their avoidance of firearms, because they've been so, they've been so educated or indoctrinated to be fearful of guns, has led them to be much more likely victims of violent crime and robbery.
Okay, and look, we lost Skip there. Hopefully we'll get Skip back. I do want to bring on our guests into the conversation because, my guest is a awesome female instructor out of Atlanta, Georgia. And, I love the South, and I like Georgia because that's where my parents live. And so I'm going to have to send my parents to you as well, since you're in Atlanta there, because my parents live in Snellville, Georgia. And I want to bring into the conversation Tangi Daniel. Welcome to Come and Talking.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. All right, Tangi. Man, Tangi, tell everybody about you. What do you do? How did you get involved in firearms? Who is Tangi? And I hope I have your name right.
You do. So my friends and family call me Tanjanika. I'm the CEO of Tactical Tangerine Defense, and I am a certified firearms instructor. I'm a certified Glock armorer, and I'm also a Marine Corps veteran. That's how I got into the firearms industry. Before this,
Devil Dog.
Yes,
Devil Dog. You go there with your bad self now.
So yes, I'm a two-time OIF Marine Corps veteran. I did 2 tours in Iraq, and so my introduction to firearms came from joining the Marine Corps. Before that, I was a cheerleader, so I had absolutely no idea about firearms or weapons. And fast forward now, I teach tactical training. I teach classes on how to break down and rebuild your Glock or your AR-15, things like that. So I'm really excited about the progression of the industry, sans the bills that are being introduced in the Senate right now.
Right. And so, man, that's awesome. I'm actually an Army veteran. So, all right. I hope you've gone to the VA. I got to tell everyone this I meet that's a veteran. I hope you've gone to the VA and you've gotten some your benefits.
I'm at 80% right now.
I wish I could do a fist bump with you. I'm at 80% too. That's right. We're both 80% disabled veterans. Oh man, we gotta do a fist bump. There you go. All right. So that's right. All right. So that is awesome. All right. So now, Tangi, tell me about, your company. What do you guys do?
So Tactical Tangerine Defense teaches you tips, tricks, and tools on how to stay trained and tactical. So we do that through education classes. So I teach firearm basics, where I teach you situational awareness. I have a lot of women that take private classes from me. So I'm really hard on situational awareness, avoid, escape, defend. I harp on teaching them how to properly hold the firearm grip and stance. So I take them into the range and actually fire their first firearm with them, and then make this a process that's seamless and easy. That way they don't feel fearful. That way they don't feel, intimidated by this tool. Because at the end of the day, it's a tool, and as long as you use the tool properly, nothing will go wrong with it.
And you know what? I'm gonna have to have you help me, Tangi, because I need to know, how do I help women who have really long fingernails load the rounds in the magazine without breaking their nail?
They have to practice. That's a great question because I had to. Mine broke, so I gave up. I
Did you?
literally-
Oh, so there's all right. So there's no secret to it.
Nope. It's just practice. It's just practice.
Okay.
You can use a mag feeder.
Mag loader, speed loader. Yeah, speed loader works. Great.
Yep.
All right. Now, Tangi, I want to get into these gun bills, because we have, there are two, I call anti-gun bills. I hope everyone else does too. Two major anti-gun bills that actually passed the U.S. House of Representatives this week. It's on its way to the Senate. And this is a big, huge red flag. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Because, first, everyone knows my thoughts. What are your thoughts on universal background check?
So we have background checks. Calling it universal isn't going to make it any better. Every time I go purchase a firearm, I have to do a background check. And I have my concealed carry, so that speeds up the process a little bit in the state that I'm in. But we already have these institutions or these programs in place. The problem is criminals don't sign up for background checks, and criminals are not out here getting their guns registered. You're affecting law-abiding citizens who are trying to put forth the effort to be legal and exercise their constitutional right. And that's what really is being infringed upon, and that's what we really need to harp on. There was legislation introduced, a national reciprocity concealed carry bill, and that was shot down and rejected by the Democrats this week. And that was asked to be put in the bill along with the two that were anti-gun, and they decided not to put those in, but they went forward with the anti-gun control bill. So we see the direction that they're headed in. We see the trajectory. We see what's about to happen. So it's just about being aware. It's about calling your senator and letting them know that you oppose, you abhor these bills, and you will not stand for your Second Amendment rights to be infringed upon.
All right. And what do you think this is going to target, like a certain group of people, or is going to target people, period? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So full disclosure, I'm transitioning out of the cannabis industry. So it's very parallel to firearms industry. I spent about 10 years in the cannabis industry, lobbying in Congress because I'm a veteran, lobbying with other veterans, and then helping investors with alternative investment options like cannabis and real estate. So I'm just transferring those same skills over into firearms. And I recognize that we've been targeted and lied to about firearms, just like we were about this plan. And it's very interesting what's happening. This is very strategic. It was done purposely. The gun laws always affect our communities more than anything. And we're the most affected by the judicial system, but yet we don't know anything about the judicial system. So we don't know our rights. We don't know our laws. We don't know, what is being infringed upon or not until it's too late. And so that's very, very interesting to me what's happening. And yeah, I think it's going to affect our community the most.
All right, we're talking with Tangi Daniels. We're talking about, and she's from Tactical Tangerine Defense. We're talking about the universal background checks, talking about what's, these two gun bills that actually passed the U.S. House of Representatives. We're talking about that. We're talking about more. Man, my circle of friends, I think, are all on the spectrum. I'm just watching you guys right now, and we're definitely all on the spectrum. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Folks, this is Doug Man Jones. And I get my gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm that would justify an
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's
Even
Michael
in this
Cargill.
situation,
All right, so we're
I
back.
would
We're
be
talking
very
about the universal background check bill. Also, there's another bill I want to discuss, and that's the one where they get rid of the three-day waiting period. All right, so currently right now, you want to walk into a gun store, you want to buy a firearm, and let's say your transaction gets delayed. By federal law, they can delay you up to 3 business days. After the 3rd business day, they can transfer the firearm to you. Well, if universal background check passes, all transactions will be in the gun store. And if there's anything in your criminal history at all, they have to verify, you're going to get delayed. A lot of people found this the hard way because last year in March, when everyone in this country walked into a gun store on March 13th, from March 13th to the present to purchase a firearm, they found out by some of those transactions were actually delayed. Now, back in March of 2020 and April of 2020, they delayed those transactions 30 days, in some cases 45 days. The transactions were delayed. So, if they pass this bill where they drop the 3-day waiting period, now they can delay your transaction indefinitely. That means you will not be able to get that firearm because it's indefinite. There's no 3-day waiting period. They can say, hey, sorry, that gun store can't transfer the firearm to you until you get a proceed. Now, the only thing that's going to save you from this is getting your handgun license. If you get your handgun license, you don't have to worry about the 3-day waiting period. And this is something that we remind people when they come into the gun store every single day. Remind you, hey, you come to the gun store, you don't have a handgun license. Get your handgun license. It makes that transaction a little easier because we don't have to contact the FBI. We still have to fill out the form, but we don't have to. You have to fill out the form. We don't have to contact the NICS and do the background check because your background check's already been done because you have a handgun license. So this will keep you from getting delayed. And this will keep you from having any issues, with the background check system if it goes down. Do you know that there's only one location that every gun store in the country contacts to do a background check? So every gun store is contacting, we're calling West Virginia to do this background check. And if that system is down, which it happens quite a bit, when that system goes down, it can be down for the entire day. I've seen it go down for 24 hours. When that system goes down, that means that anyone needs a background check, you're not going to get a gun at all until that system comes back up, unless you have your license to carry handgun. And it's sad because I get people that walk into the gun store and they're upset and they're angry because they're trying to pick up their firearm and they think that we don't want to give it to them. You know, it's not that I don't want to give it to you. It's the fact that you don't have your handgun license. Get your license, you know, and then you don't have to worry about, you know, the background check system. Because once it goes down, you can't get your gun. Yeah, so that's going to help you out a little bit. But we're talking with Tangi, and I want to bring her into the conversation. She's from Tactical Tangerine Defense. And get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, HR 1446 was another bill that was passed along with HR 8, and they have passed the House, and they're on to the Senate. Kind of move it, like you say, is what it says on. Really had a.
Hold on, we're losing you a little bit. For some reason, you're losing your internet's kind of bouncing just a little bit.
Oh no! Is this better? Is this better?
Yeah, there we go. That's better. All right, so go ahead. Start over with those. Better? Yeah, that's better. Go ahead and start over with those bills again.
So HR 8 and HR 1446 were the two bills that were just passed. The House, and they're going.
It's still bouncing just a little bit.
HR 14.
Yeah, hold on. We'll try to get that.
Oh no, I don't.
Yeah, no worries. We'll try to get that fixed. So we'll get a few minutes, maybe it's buffering or something like that. So like you said, there are two bills. You know, one's the universal background check bill, and the other bill is the one that actually gets rid of the 3-day waiting period. You know, what's your thought on that? Being from the UK, United Kingdom.
Well, I mean, it's great to be in America where I can own firearms in the first place. But I think what a lot of these kind of laws and kind of bills kind of shows that like how kind of out of hand the legal system has got, where in some states I can legally purchase and smoke marijuana, yet you know these kind of universal background check laws would prevent me from purchasing a firearm. So in some states I could perhaps legally own a marijuana dispensary, yeah, I couldn't own a firearm due to the federal legislation. So it's kind of a bit it's like a lattice of of legislation, which is kind of designed to trip people up and get people in trouble, I think.
Yeah, and with this bill, HR 1446, like Tangi had mentioned, that's the extension of the waiting period. And basically, the people pushing this bill in particular are citing Dylan Roof's shooting in the church a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that, oh, well, he got his gun because of the 3-day waiting period that lapsed, and then he was able to just get his gun after. But what they don't mention is that he had a drug possession before that, but it was only a misdemeanor. So that alone would not have barred him from purchasing the gun.
Yeah, you're right. So if he had a drug conviction that was a misdemeanor, then that alone, that one conviction would not have prohibited him from passing the background check. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't verify his criminal history, couldn't verify if it was a felony or misdemeanor is probably what the issue was, or if it was still in warrant status or something like that. And so that's why he was delayed, and they weren't getting a response back from that agency, court, or whoever they were trying to contact.
But that said, I mean, how many other mass shootings have there been where they've legally acquired firearms? Like, how effective is this legislation going to be to protect against, mass shooters, right?
Nothing.
They're not.
You can't legislate crazy.
Yeah. Precisely. So it seems like this is just here to take away our firearms.
Correct.
Right. And let me bring Tangi back into this conversation and get your thoughts on that. Go ahead, Tangi.
Yeah, I was doing some research earlier about the laws in the UK versus the USA, and it's literally similar to what's going to happen. I feel like they're trying to literally take away the rights of firearms, and it always starts with something small, we're gonna just take away firearms, and for sports or it'll be for hunting, and then we'll take that away, and you can only have like maybe 22, and then we'll end up not having any firearm at all. So it's a slippery slope. And you can actually see where we're headed based on other countries if we pay attention. So I really feel like there's absolutely no way that you can get all firearms in the United States registered, and there's absolutely no way you can prevent these things from happening. That someone who wants to break the law, that they're going to do, they're going to do it regardless. So where we are is we're fighting for our rights. That's literally what we're fighting. That's literally what we're fighting for.
Right, because in essence, what you're saying is you cannot legislate crazy. So if a person is dead set on committing a crime, they're going to commit a crime. You can't legislate crazy. You can't stop them from doing that. And we don't put enough onus on family. We don't put family to the task and say, hey, if Uncle Bob, Uncle Billy has got an issue, then why don't you get them some help, get them some assistance or something like that? And that's not happening. What everyone's trying to do is they're trying to put the onus on everyone else. Like there was a conversation this week on social media where people were talking about suicides and how gun store instructors, firearms instructors should, talk to people about suicides. I'm like, why? Because, people kill themselves a lot of different ways. It's not only by a firearm. So I'm not a therapist, and that is not my place to discuss, and talking with someone about suicide. Do you honestly want people to walk into the gun store and have that clerk behind the counter talk to you about suicide?
Well, no, but at the same time, you have to appreciate that all of the 60, like
saying I don't want that person talking to me about suicide.
All of the politicians say there's something like 60,000 gun deaths in the U.S. every year, but a good 60% of all those gun deaths are suicide.
No, there's like 30-something thousand.
30,000, but it's still 60% of that is suicide.
Yeah,
Self-inflicted gunshot wounds, right?
Right.
So I mean, yeah, there's a huge amount of suicide with guns, and the problem with suicide by gun is that it's a very effective method. Right. Out of all the other methods of suicide, they're considerably less effective.
And that's why people choose it, because it will get the job done.
Yeah, get the jobs done first time, right?
Right. And Tangi, what's your thoughts about that?
Just trying to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out. So we find out they want to commit suicide, or we have a conversation. Then what are we supposed to do? Where does our line end? Because I'm not a therapist. And so what if I jump the gun? Or maybe that person just felt that way for that day. Who am I to step in and then I get all of this stuff? I get all of this stuff. All of these agencies involved, and once they get involved, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. You're now in a system. That's not what you intended to happen. That's not what you had to happen. You're having a bad day. I never thought about it. She misinterpreted. It wrong. Like that's a slippery slope, and that's what happened. And that's what happened. Another bill that was introduced, where they wanted to do the universal background checks, and they want to have you do a psyche eval, and your ex-wife or your ex-husband be the one that says you're in a condition to hold a firearm. I don't think that's my ex-husband's place to put that type of stipulation on me. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know what type of training. He doesn't know what type of training. He should not be in the position to have that much authority over something that happens in my life. So even asking family members, I think that's a slippery slope. But I do agree that we try to put the blame on everyone else and try to make this a communal problem when it's really not. When it's an individual that takes it upon themselves to make a decision. And once that decision is made, that's not something that I can stop just by having a conversation with them.
We're talking with Tangi Daniels. She's with Tactical Tangerine Defense out of Atlanta, Georgia. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
So, Patrick, what's up, Patrick? My mic's. Hey, Patrick. There we go. All right. Hey, so Patrick, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
You doing all right?
Yeah.
All right, good. So, what do you think about all this talk? All this talk about universal background checks. What's your thought on that?
I don't really have too much of a thought of it. I just want to make sure that the right people are the people that have licenses.
Talk close to the mic.
I don't want the wrong people to have licenses over. I don't know. It's kind of like a rough subject for me because I don't know who should and should not have licenses to carry a gun or not.
Everyone should have a gun. What should we talk about, Patrick?
Amen.
Everybody should have a gun.
Amen.
I believe in praise the Lord and passing the ammunition. Everyone should have everything. If you want a grenade, you should have a grenade. If you want a machine gun, if you want a tank, you should have a freaking tank. Right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You better lean to the right if you're going to throw up. Lean to the right. Lean to the right.
Oh shit.
All right, so some people can't hang. This is what happens on the show. Here, take the whole bag.
Anyways.
Oh, too late for that.
Yeah.
And this is what happened during the break. And that's what happens during the break. In the bag. On this flight, Some people can't
This
hang.
is what happens.
And by the way, today is my birthday, and so this is how we do it on Michael's birthday. You know,
Yeah, we have
somebody.
What is this? This is a mango mine?
Somebody loses their cookie. Literally. Loses their cookies. All right, so all right, we got to take you home.
Don't be recording me.
Right, too late. You're on Facebook Live. You can.
Oh my god, this is brilliant.
Oh my goodness. You did this. Oh man, he's still
You
going.
did this.
He's going in
Right.
chunks. You guys hear him?
Like, Michael is gonna lie to you now because this man right here is peer pressure. Okay,
Mike is the king.
Michael, I came there. I was drinking water, and this man gives me what, a shot, and this
What?
like
He's a liar. He's such a liar right now.
Nice.
He's such a liar. He's such a liar. There's no peer pressure. You're your own man. You're an adult. Okay.
you have agency.
You're an adult, you know, so roll with the punches. You have the ability to say no. Just like Nancy Reagan, just say no.
Self-inflicted.
Just say no. Just say no.
It's all self-inflicted. Shit happens.
Whose phone is that? That is my phone. You okay over there? All right, so he's getting it back together. He's lost his cookies. We got a lot to clean up in the studio here on the floor. We'll get it. We'll have to get that together. Man, crazy. Zach, what are your thoughts? It's crazy. Zach's like, I don't want to say anything.
You're quite the peer pressure king, Michael.
I'm social distancing right now.
Why don't we just all smash our drinks right now? Should we do it? It's your birthday.
He's
Should we
like,
do it?
I'm social distancing. And you guys got to check out my birthday cake. I had a really nice birthday cake today.
We got it here.
All
It's
right,
right here.
we have it right here, but we have a picture of it? Well, no, the picture.
Can we open it? I mean, I've been looking at it for the past 2 hours. I want to eat it. I'm hungry.
Oh yeah, go ahead, dig in. Absolutely. My birthday cake's lobster. Lobster tail.
How about you over there, big guy? You want to?
All right, here we go. All right, we're getting ready to go live, back to live now.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so you had to be there during the break, boy. Let me tell you, that was an exciting break there, right, Zach?
Yes.
I think so.
Only doing the break. Facebook Live. You got to be on Facebook Live to see that one, boy. Only on my birthday on Facebook Live. Let me see it. Let me tell you. Boy, I tell you. Something else. Got to love Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. And I love our view of downtown Austin today. It's beautiful. We see the Jenga building. You used to live in the Jenga building, didn't you?
Back when I was rich, yeah. Now I'm broke.
Oh, so that's what happens when you leave the royal family.
Well, I tried to do a Megan, but I ended up on the east side. I didn't end up in a mansion in Canada, so yeah.
Oh, well, you know. So Megan say, hey, you know, come.
I'm a few shades too dark. They didn't give me any pay.
Oh, you're a lot darker than Megan?
I think so. Am I not? Do you think?
I don't know. I can't tell.
You look a lot like her, actually.
We're probably distantly related.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's go back to talking about this, these anti-gun bills that we were talking about earlier today. And we have a guest here from Atlanta, Georgia. And my parents live in Atlanta. And so, you know, Tangi, I'm going to have to send my parents to you because, you know, I've been checking you out online. And you're an awesome instructor. And I've been getting a lot of female instructors, you know, on our radio show around the country, you know, and I just ran into like one of your videos probably about a month ago, and I was like, man, we got to get her on the show. You know, this lady here is an awesome instructor. So, somebody has a question for you.
Yeah, hey, how's it going, Tangi? I just want to kind of ask you a bit of a question that, especially as a female firearms instructor, do you find that you're predominantly kind of dealing with helping women with acquiring their first firearm and how to effectively use their firearm? Or do you find that it's mainly a 50-50 mix or predominantly men? Like, what do you think the composition is? And do you think that, do you seem to attract more women to your kind of groups in your lessons?
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
I attract a lot of first-time firearm owners, and a lot of them have been gifted those firearms from their husband, boyfriend, significant other. They have no idea how to use it, how to load it, how to handle it. And so that's what I'm there for, to ease that learning curve for them, and not doing it in a way that makes them feel intimidated or makes them feel uncomfortable. But I do have guys as well, and I find like I work really well with guys. I guess because Marine Corps or the industries that have been male dominated. So I work really well with guys. For the most part, it's about a 60-40 split. Some more women.
That's interesting. Because it's quite interesting because we've had quite a high-profile murder in the UK of a young woman who was kind of attacked in walking home one night, and it's quite interesting that in the UK there's quite vocal proposals to kind of curfew men after 6 p.m. I mean, I think it's kind of a bit of a joke, but it's kind of interesting that how in the UK no one's interested in perhaps arming women or giving women the tools in which to defend themselves.
Really?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. There's a huge amount of people saying that men are the problem, etc., etc., and no one's suggesting, hey, how about we give women guns? Because more power to them. Do you know what I mean? Like this is exactly why we have the Second Amendment here in America, that women can be protected and can defend themselves. If they are attacked or mistreated.
Yeah, because it's amazing to me, because it's like the people that you have certain people that don't want people to have firearms, don't want them to protect themselves. They want to have more restrictions, and it seems like those people there are the ones that want to take advantage of those women, I think.
Yeah, no,
we're having a little incident here in the studio here. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite bad, because I think it's one of those things where definitely with regard to women and firearms ownership, this is definitely, I think women demonstrate the beauty of the Second Amendment, where no matter where you are in America, as a woman, you can carry a firearm and be protected and know that you won't be victimized no matter wherever you travel, right? And I think that it's one of those things that as we see this kind of legislation get introduced where we're trying to limit access to firearms, it's only going to affect women the most. You know what I mean? Like women are the ones who are going to be victims of physical attack or sexual attacks or whatnot. Do you know what I mean?
And let's ask a lady.
Yeah,
Tangi. What are your thoughts about that?
That is so true, because
especially black women,
especially black women, they're the fastest growing gun owners. We're also the most targeted gender. So you're absolutely correct. It has a lot to do. Number one, we don't have very good situational awareness. We are always on our phones. The doors are unlocked. Just practicing unsafe practices, or not being vigilant of what's going on around us. And that's not our fault. That's not our fault. We shouldn't be in a position where someone takes advantage of us. But that does happen. And I just that's so extreme. And that's literally how people go. They don't just do sensible laws or bills. They want to go like let's outlaw men going out at 6 p.m. It sounds egregious and outrageous, but this is what we are. And this is a similar bill here in the United States. Like women can't have abortions. How do you tell me what to do with my uterus and my body? Whether you agree or not. So I just feel like we just have a problem globally of affecting change in the most negative way, absurd way when it comes to infringing on other people's rights.
So when you're talking about some of the stuff that you do with women, you said that about security and kind of situational awareness and whatnot. So I mean, how much of your kind of firearms training with regard to women do you focus on that kind of situational awareness and how to avoid these situations, or do you what kind of things do you kind of teach women? What are kind of the key lessons that you want any woman who goes through your training regime to kind of be be aware of?
Excellent question. So I focus on four things in my mini classes. My mini classes are around 90 minutes, and we definitely harp on situational awareness the most. There's something called the color codes of awareness, and it was created for military, but the guy was a Marine, and he translated it over for civilians. So I tell them those color codes. White is your yellow is your alert. You're supposed to be aware. Orange is when something is going wrong. You're not sure, but something could happen. And red something could happen. Is when, you know, is when everything is gone awry, everything is gone awry, you're unholstered, you've made the decision to fire. So I really harp on that. I think women come to my class thinking that they get an automatic pass to fire their firearms, they do get training, and we're like, no, there's laws in place, you have to worry about this, you have to worry about this, you have to worry about concealed carry, you have to worry about, you have to worry about the moral ramifications, the legal ramifications, all of those things are what we harp on in my classes. It's not just fire, just a little fire, just a little, that's a little part of what we do in our class, because that's not the main important focus, like grit, stance, all of that stuff can be relatively quickly learned, but getting the mental mindset of being able to pull the trigger or not, that's something that you really focus on with women.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, and what people don't want to talk about the Sarah Everard, her murder and disappearance, is that it was actually a police officer that's getting charged with it.
What is that now?
A police officer is the one who kidnapped and murdered this woman in the UK that they are now trying
I read that.
give a curfew to men after.
Wow. And this is why I'm an anarchist.
That's a whole
So
nother...
let's give even less power to the people and more to the police, because a police officer kidnapped and murdered this woman.
Well, it's quite ironic, really, because the British police don't carry firearms themselves. I think they only carry tasers.
Jeez. And knives are outlawed.
Yeah, no, it's no joke. Like in the UK, there's been numerous cases where like a guy was caught like climbing a mountain. Like no joke, in Scotland, he was caught climbing a mountain. And he had a knife on him. I think it was even part of a multi-tool, if I remember correctly. And he was arrested and charged for knife possession, because you can't possess a knife outside your house in the UK, right?
Nothing sharp at all, huh?
No, because safety. You see, safety first. And yeah, no, he was seriously charged. He was arrested and charged because he possessed a knife while halfway up a mountain. Because he had a knife, and this is our well, this is Europe for you.
Yeah, and Tanji brought up a really good point earlier about how they are trying to incrementally take away our rights as gun owners. They don't want to just take away your rights in one fell swoop, in one bill. They want to take one step forward, encroaching into your rights, and then take another step forward, and then another. And then before you know it, you're 2 miles back from where you started, and there's practically no way to get your rights back.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like the boiled frog.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this a little briefly last week, is that, like, you know, when you look at the United States, especially over the past maybe 100 years, is that there has been a precipitous decline in access to firearms, and firearms legislation has only gotten far and more stringent. And sooner or later, it's going to get to a point where, like, we're going to reach this inflection point where sooner or later people are going to wake up and say, hey, if we let this continue for another 10 years, we're not going to have a Second Amendment anymore.
You're going to be like your home country and not be able to have a knife.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're walking around.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But so, how do you enforce all that stuff, though? You know, how do you enforce? Because there are millions of...
They catch you and they put you in jail and they make you a felon.
No, that's exactly it. Like, because you have to understand that when you're in that kind of society, the police can pull you over and say, "Hey, we're going to search you
for whatever they want," right?
No, absolutely. If there's absolutely no, it's very different.
Funny.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And again, you have to understand that being black in London is, especially with regard to the Metropolitan Police, is they're coming for you. Do you know what I mean? Like that is like, again, like knife crime. They target blacks like far worse than you would find here in America. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like there's a huge amount of problems with these kind of laws and these kind of like preventions of access to firearms, stuff like this, and it's not the most effective solution to ending crime or gun crime whatsoever.
Oh yeah, Tanji put it really well when she brought that up earlier, I think.
Yeah, because there's 393 million guns in the U.S.
Amen.
393 million guns. So it's going to be very hard, to regulate anything. It's going to be very hard to, get people to register them, but if we allow them to, like you just said, take one step at a time, chip here, chip there, then, man, we're going to be in big trouble. Going to be in big trouble. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Coleon Noir, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Hello, my name is Edwin Walker. I'm an independent program attorney with Texas Law Shield. I want to talk to you today about an issue that we see on a daily basis. In fact, you yourself will encounter it on a daily basis, and that is the subject of road rage. I am sure that you have all seen road rage. You may have actually been involved in a road rage incident. Now, if you're a responsible gun owner, I'm going to give you a few words of advice on how to react when you find yourself in one of these unfortunate road rage incidents. While on the roadways, we all observe something that makes us upset. Whether it's poor driving, unsafe driving, or just simply somebody being very discourteous. By all means, you should restrain yourself from engaging that person and telling them how bad their actions were, because this can be perceived as an act of road rage. If you're a lawful gun owner, you have a firearm in your vehicle, you do not want to be viewed as the aggressor in a road rage situation. Now, with regard to a situation where an individual has chosen to rage against you, and you are the actual victim of the road rage, if you and the other individuals are still in their automobiles, do not use your firearm to respond to any of the rager's activities. This is because law enforcement views the fact that you're both still safely in your metal boxes as removing any threat of immediacy that you may be harmed. So please, if you have a gun, somebody is raging against you, forget you have a gun. Don't display it, don't brandish it, don't show it, don't point it, and for God's sake, don't fire it. This could result in a lot of trouble for you. Now let's look at a situation where a road rage incident has escalated. It has escalated to the point where one of the participants has actually gotten out of their vehicle. We recommend that you stay in your vehicle at all times. Do not exit your vehicle, because the person who exits their vehicle is going to be looked at as the aggressor. If the other individual has exited their vehicle and they are not in contact with your vehicle and they do not have a weapon, then do not feel that you can display your weapon in an act of self-defense. People are allowed to just simply stand there and scream at you, scream whatever they want. Until they make a demonstrative effort to try to harm you, there is no immediate threat that would justify displaying or shooting or brandishing your firearm. Now, in the event that the person shows their own weapon, in particular a firearm, the existence of their weapon would give you reasonable belief that there was an immediate threat of harm that would justify an act of force or deadly force. Even in this situation, I would...
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about, these anti-gun bills that are coming down the pipe from our U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, and also the president. We talked about the bills that actually have already passed the House of Representatives. The bills have passed. Universal background checks has passed. The 3-day, the next one that's they're looking at trying to pass is a 3-day waiting period, getting rid of that. The universal background checks, like I said before, all firearm transactions will have to be done in the gun store if universal background check passes. That means that, those people that are right now 18 years old that can actually get a gun as a private sale and have a gun in their vehicle or get it as a gift from a parent, you're not going to be able to do that if universal background check passes. So you won't be able to do that. It's going to change a lot. It's going to affect, people that, it's going to affect our veterans. Currently right now, veterans who are 18, 19, 20 years old, they can get a license to carry a handgun. They can carry a handgun in Texas at 18, 19, or 20. You can get your license and carry a gun in Texas. You still cannot walk into the gun store and buy a gun, but you can get it as a private sale as a gift. Well, if universal background check passes, that's going to affect our veterans who are 18, 19, and 20. You can die for your country, but you can't buy a gun. So, that's it's going to cause a problem. This is a big problem, and it's irreparable consequences of bad legislation. It's going to affect, definitely going to affect, a certain group of people. It's going to affect, that traffic stop, getting stopped by police. An officer wants to determine whether or not the gun that you have is you actually obtain that gun legally. That's going to affect that traffic stop if the officer wants to mess with you. And it is what it is. You can say, and if naysayers, call me up. My number is 512-643-5483, and let's talk about it. Because this is a very bad bill, and you're racist if you're trying to pass this bill. I said it. You're a racist. You don't like it? Call me. Let's talk about it.
Well, what Skip said was, they're going to pass this bill, but they're not going to enforce it, right?
They're going to enforce it. That's why they're trying to pass it. They're definitely going to enforce it.
They don't want to pass a bill if they're not going to enforce it, right?
And it's going to affect the people that, that are, kind of accustomed to, doing small amounts of marijuana for their recreational use, because then you have to walk to the gun store. It is, you cannot purchase a firearm if you're an unlawful user of, addicted to any marijuana or any depressant, stimulants, narcotic drugs, or any other controlled substance. The use or possession of a firearm remains unlawful under federal law, regardless of whether it has been legalized or decriminalized for medicinal or recreational purposes in the state where you live. Tangi, what are your thoughts on that, Tangi?
Well, that was literally the reason I had to leave the cannabis industry. I was literally involved in that world for the last 10 years, traveling Spain, Jamaica, London, all of these places, speaking, became a best-selling author, all of that stuff. And all of those accomplishments I had to, pull by the wayside and leave because of a letter that the ATF sent out specifically stating this. I had no idea that the letter existed. I had no idea that I had to choose between, being in that industry and my Second Amendment rights. And I was doing so much in that industry that I couldn't justify moving over into the firearms space and trying to keep the world separate. So I had to make a decision, and it's super unfortunate. I know triple amputee veterans who consume cannabis, and they're better husbands, better fathers, better spouses because of the plant. So I recognize and I understand what that plant does. I really do. I can tell you how it works in your body scientifically. I can tell you, breakdown of why it was made illegal in the first place and the history of it. So again, just transferring all of those skills over into firearms, because it's the same thing in my book. Like, we are being affected, we meaning the Black community, have been told, to stay away from firearms, don't touch them, don't be around them. Our rights were stripped away from us during, right after slavery, when civil rights soldiers came home. They were stripped of their weapons and their firearms. So you can go back to history and you can see it repeating itself all over again. And this isn't enforceable. At the end of the day, the Black market will always thrive. It's called the legacy market in our world. The legacy market will always be there because of situations like this. At the end of the day, someone would rather, be alive and have that firearm in their possession than to be out there in these streets and not have it. And so it's something that's unenforceable. It's going to keep the prison industrial complex going and create new slaves out of this situation.
Well, when you say it's unenforceable, they can enforce it. They can put you in jail if they find out that you have broken this law. So they can enforce it, but it's not going to be it's not going to be
It's
easy.
not effective. So I should
Yeah.
say that it's definitely
Correct.
enforceable,
Yeah.
but it's not effective when it comes to, I don't know what they're trying to solve or prove or prevent doing this, because it's not preventing criminals from doing the right thing. That's not what's happening here. So it is definitely enforceable, but it's not effective. I should say that.
Well, what it will be is a de facto gun registry, because now every gun will have to have a paper trail behind it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, when you stop by police now, how does a police officer, if this passes, how does a police officer figure out if you obtained the firearm legally?
You do what I do, and you tell him that you've got 4 guns in the car, and he doesn't ask any more questions and let you go about your way.
That's what you do?
Yep. You make really solid eye contact, and when he says, "Do you have any guns in the car?" you say, "Yeah, I've got more than you."
And he actually scares me when he has interactions with law enforcement. I actually worry about him. This is like my stepson over here, and I actually get worried and concerned, when he gets his interaction, and we're gonna have to learn conflict resolution. We're gonna have to learn to calm those situations down. We're gonna have to learn how to be kind of play chess instead of checkers when you're dealing with your interactions, with law enforcement and with everybody, really. Because it's easy to walk out here. I can walk outside this door, like I tell the people in my class, I can walk outside the door and make someone angry, really piss them off. That's really easy to do. But can you walk outside the door and someone who is really angry, can you calm that person down, and bring them down from that level of anger that they're at, where you can actually have a decent conversation with them and, and relax whatever issues or pains that they're having. Then that's when you win the situation. That's how you win a conversation. That's winning.
But I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think the problem that we're approaching right now, we're approaching it very fast, is that our Second Amendment rights are being attacked so much so that it's actually going to be very difficult to remain a law-abiding citizen. For example, like I said, in California, you could actually operate a dispensary, and then if this universal background check legislation passes, you could legally possess and consume marijuana, yet you couldn't then possess a firearm. So it seems that being a law-abiding citizen, as well as also maintaining your rights, is incongruous. Like one has this is why I take such a kind of an aggressive stance towards the police. Is that sooner or later it's going to be impossible to be both a law-abiding citizen and also maintain my Second Amendment rights. Do you understand my point?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, I'm encouraging people to get your handgun license. Get your license. It makes the transaction easier. Get your license. It makes that transaction, keep it from being delayed. You won't be delayed in the gun store if you have a handgun license. Unfortunately, that's where we are today. And I know there's some people out there that, say, hey, well, I don't want to get the license because I don't want to have to pay for my right. It's a right I shouldn't have to pay for. I agree with you, but unfortunately, you didn't go to the polls. You didn't go vote. So, the majority of people, you did not vote. So that's where we are today. And since you didn't vote, now we're at the precipice of losing our Second Amendment rights because you did not show up to the polls. Right? And so, Tangi, tell us more about your company. Where can people find you? Where can we, people sign up for your classes? Because I know my parents are listening. And then also, you have a radio show, correct?
I do. I have a show called Chocolate Tangerine, and we cover all things tips, tricks, and tools on staying tactical and trained. And so that's on Power 108.9, and that's every second and fourth Sunday at 11 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time. So I had a show this morning, and that'll be posted soon. And I'm Tactical Tangerine Defense. I'm mainly on Instagram and LinkedIn right now. I'm working on Facebook. I'm trying to come back over to that world, but I left that alone. But yeah, I have all my classes posted in my bio on Instagram, and then I literally can be reached Tangi at tacticaltangerine.com. Tangi is Tangy. And so, yeah, you can definitely contact me if you have any questions, comments, or if you're trying to get any private classes done in Atlanta or Georgia in general.
All right. And thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate you. First, they came for, certain people. Back in the 1600s, if you were Indian, you could not, be sold a firearm in the 1600s in this country. And then they said, okay, you can't, if you're Indian, your firearms cannot be repaired. And anyone that tried to sell you a firearm or try to repair your firearms, they were put to death. That was the punishment. They came for those first. Second, they said, you know what? If you are a free slave, you cannot have access to firearms. Then that happened in this country. Then they came for those. After that, they said, you know what? We're going to start regulating handguns. They came for that. Went over to California. Ronald Reagan in California saw the Black Panthers go into the Capitol in California, and he said, you know what? We need to do something about that. Then they came for those guns. Then they came for the bump stocks. Now they're coming for universal background checks. Then they're going to come from the AR-15. What's next? If you don't do something now, you're going to lose it. As always, more guns equals less crime. Go out there and buy yourself a gun. You listen to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.